Hi friend, I'm Crispy Hansen with Date Night ZBS, and this is to Catch a FillyFiddler. Before we talk about tonight's sicko, I'd like to announce that throughout the months of May and June, TCAF will be made in conjunction with Who's for Hope, a fundraiser created by my good friend Phoenix Redtail to support the people of Ukraine who are currently going through a pretty messy situation, as I'm sure you have seen. If you wish to donate and help the innocent people of the country, then I implore you to go into the description and click the Tiltify link. Any amount helps, $1, 10 cents. Without any further ado, let's get into tonight's subject. Meet 20-year-old Prince Slayer, rape fetishist, sharer of NSFW content to minors, delusional waifuist, among many, many other things. Prince Slayer is by no means a new player. People as popular as Prince Whateverer knows of him. His antics have spread far and wide across the fandom, and it's finally time that his fuck shit is spread even further. Like Nutella on toast, just spread that shit. In early April and October of last year, Slayer was in contact with 3 people, a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 14-year-old. In the DMs of these individuals, Slayer repeatedly sent explicit material, even when asked not to. In this interaction, he sends this image, a source filmmaker render of Twilight Sparkle and his OC engaging in a sexual act toward each other to a 14-year-old girl. The 14-year-old responds clearly uncomfortable, but Slayer doesn't take a hint, stating that if the 14-year-old ever wants their own custom NSFW material, they just need to send their OC to an artist, ending it with, "You can have NSFW of your own with your waifu too." Life is so easy. So to sum that one up, he sent an explicit image to a 14-year-old, and then sent clear instruction on how the 14-year-old can get their own explicit material, which is fucked, and not in a sexy way. In this image, Slayer allegedly sent NSFW material to the 16-year-old victim, who then asked Slayer to never send any NSFW material and to delete what he sent, which he supposedly abides to. In a later discussion with Prince Whatever, they confirmed that Slayer knew of their age. In this image here, the 17-year-old victim mentions that they have their age in their bio, to which Slayer responds by saying, "Oh, someone gave you NSFW access in my server?" To which the victim replies, "I'm not in your server, Slayer." I assume their interaction was in the same vein as the other ones, hence this specific screenshot here, but I can't find any prior conversation between these two to back that up, so, just take that with a grain of salt, but I also wouldn't place it out of the realm of reality given what we just spoke about. You might have noticed that Slayer uses the term waifu in the interaction with the 14-year-old, and yeah, that's not just a one-off, he's a waifuist. No shade to the community of waifuists, hell, when I was 16, I got into it myself with Doki Doki Literature Club, I understand somewhat the community, but I'm pointing this out because his love for his waifu, that being Twilight Sparkle, doesn't end with abhorrent Discord conversations. It also extends to Twitter DMs. In these screenshots here, between Slayer and my good acquaintance, Twilight Sparky, he proves he's a genuinely delusional type of waifuist because he actually believes Twily is the real Twilight Sparkle. Like, Twilight Sparkle from the show somehow used interdimensional magic fuckery and got a Twitter account of all things. And if that was truly the case, I would feel bloody awful for Twilight, could you imagine? "Dear Princess Celestia, humans are garbage." The screenshots for this conversation starts with Slayer attempting to reassure Twilight that he isn't going to ask about breasts or butt, and to quote, he's not the type of guy who'd ask a cutie about personal body shits. Also that his waifu, quote, would not love him if she saw what he was doing. The conversation immediately continues with Prince going full simpo mode by saying, "But I want to hug you so badly." He then does a little improvised roleplay where he hugs Twily, quote, tightly, does a little scream and caps off the interaction by saying, "The best waifu, ah." The fact there are now sound bites of me quoting Slayer here will probably end up biting me somehow. Sadly, if you think that DM conversation with Twilight was the end of any documented instances of his outright creepy way of speaking to strangers, you'd unfortunately be wrong. There are about 5 other people who've released screenshots of their interactions with him, so I'm going to have to quickfire these, and I really hope this isn't too convoluted. On Discord, he spoke to someone I'm also friends with, named Dennison. In this conversation, Slayer is attempting to do what is known apparently as a flirt. It flops. Slayer says things like, "Oh, you're so cute. You're not ugly inside, you're beautiful." Dennison then sends this meme of a microphone being held to a trash can, clearly showing his disinterest. Slayer doesn't know how to react, so he just does a little scream and bleps a few times. In this conversation on Twitter, it's assumed that Slayer reached out to a fellow Brony musician known as Riff Music, who makes absolute bangers by the way, I recommend checking him out, who in kind responds saying, "It's always nice to meet a fellow Brony musician." Slayer then attempts to commit what's known as a humble brag, saying that Prince Whatever and himself are planning to meet up in the UK, something I believe Prince Whatever has stated to be incorrect, but I can't find a screenshot of that, unfortunately. In this Twitter conversation with someone named Candy, Slayer is really sentence vomity. In this one, I've had to take some sumptuous measures when translating this from Predator to English, so there might be some mistranslation. Slayer speaks about somebody that he used to know. Supposedly a minor giving Slayer was labelled as a pedophile because of this. He implies he feels betrayed because the alleged minor promised they'd keep it just between the two of them, that they'd make it if they tried, just the two of them. And I hate to break it to you, but after this point, I genuinely couldn't gauge what he was trying to say. I think he uses voice to text or something, because this is really hard to read, let alone correct. If you have skills on somehow converting this to a format people with at least a quarter of a brain, like myself, can understand, please do so in the comments, because I'm absolutely lost. The next one isn't as creepy as the others, compared to, like, you know, sending imagery to children, but that's not saying much. In this conversation, he goes soft boy mode and spams the pleading emote and a few hearts. He calls OP a babe and says he was thinking about them. Notice how he used the flushed emote to signify he's down bad, so bad, really, really bad, Shimon. This is where we go from the creepy to the downright fucked up, and I know this series focuses on topics that kind of relate to this already, but I thought I'd give a heads up for this one, given as far as I remember, this is the first instance of a sexual threat we've presented here. So, trigger warning for threats of sexual violence. I'll give you 5 seconds to click away, and if you do, I hope you have a good day. In a Discord DM with somebody whose name will shorten to Sassy, Slayer sends a gameplay clip from the game Far Cry 4. Sassy is clearly confused because who the fuck sends a clip from a game as an icebreaker? Just say hello, Slayer, you immense fucknut. He goes on to talk about how much he stands the character in said gameplay clip, the intricate lore behind the mission it came from, etc. And Sassy says the best phrase to respond with in situations like this, stating that they honestly don't care. Slayer then does that little roleplay shenanigan, again by sighing, doing a little stutter, and deflatedly saying sure. Sassy tries to, innocently enough, change the topic to them being in the same server, to which Slayer goes Joker mode, and bursts out in a fit of rage. "Only now did you see? I don't care. Yeah, I am. So what? What you gonna do about it?" Sassy is understandably confused and maybe even a little concerned, saying, "Do you have depression or something? You alright?" Slayer continues his Joker moment and says, "No, I'm just like you. I don't care. I give a negative amount of shit about what you say." Sassy laughs. Slayer laments. Who will win this psychological warfare? Sassy cuts to the chase and says, "Listen mate, I don't know what the fuck you want from me here. You okay in the brain region?" Slayer replies, complaining that Sassy, in his eyes, didn't respond to his game clip correctly. Sassy states they don't know much about Far Cry or games in general, really. Slayer then has the fucking anatomic kettleballs to say, "Act normal next time." The conversation at first seems to tamper off, ending in Sassy calling Slayer their bestie. At least, that's what we'd hope. We'd hope the conversation would end there, but instead, Slayer acts like a total prick and continues by saying, "I'm not your fucking bestie." Sassy, clearly finding entertainment in this wacko, like I think we all would, plays along with it, sarcastically stating their heart is broken. Posts a couple emotes of... I believe that's Danganronpa, right? I am 99% sure I did not guess that correctly. The conversation has a couple of seconds of back and forth, one just egging on the other, until Slayer starts acting like he's in a fucking enemies to lovers hentai plot, stating that Sassy is lucky they're behind a monitor, otherwise he'd give them their long horse cock. Caps it off with an unironic ooh-woo to really drive home the point that he's clinically insane. Not that the point needed driving, it has its license of its own, thank you very much. Sassy loses their shit because who the hell wouldn't? Laughing, calling Slayer what he should have been his birth name, really. First name incel, last name cringe bucket. Slayer goes with it, thinking he has an upper hoof or some shit, and then Sassy points out that Slayer was acting so depressed minutes earlier. Slayer doubles down on the rapey anime villain arc, probably thinking he's winning or something, saying something along the lines of Sassy would swallow his population paste inside their quote, big throat. Sassy tries to get Slayer to clarify by asking, "Are you saying you would assault me?" She tells Slayer they're gonna tell all his friends. Slayer replies saying no, because only invading the lower half means a crime is being committed. Apparently Slayer hasn't heard of oral rape. This is so bad. Like, to break character, it's genuinely frightening how he can flip an emotional switch and go from creepy fuckhead to, like, I could see him committing a crime if he was pushed, like, IRL. Like, I hate to break the Crispy Hansen character, but, like, I'm reading this now and it's really fucked. Like, there's, like, such a bad thing with it. Sassy, if you're watching this, mate, hope you're alright. So after all of this, has he ever been called out and thrown away like the scum of the earth that he is? Proud to say yes. While he went under the name of StarTex Music, he was confronted by a Twitter DM. He ends up deflecting and dodging his crime, stating things like, "I've helped so many people in the Elders home. I never sent nudes, so I can't be a pedophile." And shit that just proves he isn't willing to confront what he's done. But he's out there, to this day, under the name of Metal Horse. You might have seen that name in a couple screenshots here and there. Here's his Twitter: "Do what you want. I'm not your dad." He's tried to make somewhat of a comeback under this new alias, going into people's DMs, locking down his account whenever he's called out, etc, etc. This is like the type of guy that... You know that one screenshot of that one brony attempting to, like, coerce Nicole Oliver into marrying him? I feel like that guy and Slayer are the same type of people who are just so socially and mentally inept and so, like, corrupted by their sick desires. That's all the time we have for tonight. Sorry it's a bit of a shorter one, I had to really cram this one in. I'm Crispy Hansen with Date Night ZBS, and this has been To Catch a FillyFiddler. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.